Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Grace Ndlovukazi, investigative journalist at the Africa Politics podcast. Over the past several months, we've traveled across South Africa, from Johannesburg to Cape Town, from factory floors to protest lines, speaking to the people living through one of the most turbulent periods in our country's recent history. We've listened to mothers who fear for their children, factory owners who watch their businesses collapse overnight. Migrants have fled their communities in panic, while activists fight to keep South Africa united. Tonight's documentary is not about taking sides. It's about understanding the truth behind the chaos. The fear, the anger, the politics, the economy, and the human stories that shape this moment. This investigation is built on real footage, real voices, and real experiences. Our goal is simple: to bring clarity where there is confusion, context where there is noise, and humanity where there is division. Thank you for being here. Let's begin. Coming up next on the Africa Politics podcast, we explore the real issues shaping the continent.
A show of solidarity. Marchers say they will not remain.
One of the main demands that we're asking for is a moratorium on repatriations.
The campaign, led by an anti-immigrant Guayan, started a training course for 7 local employees after losing about 40 foreign workers.
Crisis, and it's from our porous borders.
At the end of the day, my view is that we are going to be the losers.
So we are not celebrating.
South Africa is burning, not from fire, but from fear, anger, and desperation. We begin with Operation Ubuntu, one of the most vocal anti-immigration movements in the country. Operation Ubuntu is calling for a moratorium on migrant repatriations, not because we oppose deportations. Let's watch the next clip. It highlights key political developments.
Tell us what this march is about and why it's important that you have to hand over this memorandum to Parliament today.
This march is about unity, but most importantly, it's about addressing the concerns of people who are putting the blame on foreign nationals. We understand that their concerns are valid, and we want to go to those various departments and say, these are our concerns, but also we don't want to brutalize and mistreat our brothers and sisters from other parts of Africa.
We also know that you're handing over this memorandum. There's quite a few demands that you're making. Just list one or two of them before your march gets ahead.
One of the main demands that we're asking for is a moratorium on repatriations. Also, we're asking for government to take action against people who are intimidating and brutalizing foreign nationals, documented or undocumented.
To them, the crisis is simple. If government cannot enforce the law, communities will enforce it themselves. And that message has spread fast. But there's another side to this story, one that is often ignored. Because when Operation Ubuntu says the government is losing control, migrants hear something very different. For migrants, it sounds like a warning. It sounds like danger. It sounds like you are no longer safe here. Let's take a look at the next clip.
The priority for many people here is to get onto a bus that will get them out of South Africa before the end of the month on Tuesday. That's the deadline anti-immigrant groups have set for all undocumented migrants to leave.
We are scared. Some of the local people are violent. They are killing people. I've seen people being beaten. I can't stay here.
Anti-foreigner groups say undocumented immigrants are taking jobs from South Africans. They also blame them for high crime rates. There is no official figure of how many undocumented foreigners are in South Africa. More people are coming. This is another family who try and get out of South Africa as soon as possible. They're carrying the few belongings they've managed to take. They're joining a line of other Malawians, all who say they want to be out of this country by June 30. Some official migrants are worried about violent attacks, but say they have nowhere else to go. These people are refugees and asylum seekers. Many of them have been sleeping outside the Home Affairs office in Durban for weeks. As the June 30 gets closer, more buses of foreigners are preparing to leave South Africa, and officials say thousands of people from several African countries have already left. Harun Mutasa, Al Jazeera, Durban.
Quite a lively group here at the moment. This march due to kick off shortly.
We spoke to migrants who told us they sleep with their shoes on, ready to run. Shop owners who close their businesses overnight. Parents are keeping their children indoors because they fear what might happen outside. But what are the consequences? Operation Ubuntu says they want order, migrants say they want safety, and somewhere between those two realities, South Africa is losing its balance. So when Operation Ubuntu says government is losing control, the question becomes, who steps in? Who protects communities? Who protects migrants? And what happens when fear becomes the loudest voice in the room? South Africa's clothing factories are collapsing, not because of imports. Overnight, migrant workers fled the city. This sudden departure has left industry scrambling. The impact is already being felt, not because of machines, but because migrant workers fled overnight. Production lines are empty, orders are delayed, skilled workers are gone, locals cannot replace them. This is what happens when fear becomes policy. The economy pays the price. Let's take a look at the next clip.
Rows of sewing machines stood idle at clothing factories in Newcastle after xenophobic protests drove thousands of migrant workers out of South Africa. Reuters visited 3 factories in late July whose owners said they had lost between 12% and 19% of their workforce during the protests. Factory owner Alex Liu said some of the workers had sewing skills that were in short supply.
We can't immediately replace this skill with local. It takes time, and we were not prepared.
The vacancies follow months of anti-immigrant marches and vigilante attacks against foreigners in South Africa. The campaign, led by an anti-immigrant group called March and March, sought to free up jobs for South Africans, a third of whom are unemployed. Employers here counter that they mostly employ South Africans, but need some experienced garment sector workers from neighboring Eswatini and Lesotho. Liu said the shortage could cripple businesses.
I think they are on the edge of shutting down, but simply because I think at the moment everybody's wait and see if they can survive.
The Southern African Clothing and Textiles Workers Union estimates that 15% of Newcastle's 15,000-strong textile workforce left during the protests. Another factory owner, Rongwa Yan, started a training course for 7 local employees after losing about 40 foreign workers in June.
Starting to ask people if they're willing to be trained, be skilled workers. This week, I already got 7 people. They applied to be training. So I started training. So it's benefit for them, also benefit for my company in the future.
But he says many young South Africans balk at the difficult work and low wages.
It's not easy because I don't know maybe the people, young people, they are choosing to the comfortable job in my mind. Local people looking for the nurse, looking for the cashier, because textile, the clothing business is tough. You're sitting 9 hours on the bench is not easy.
For many migrants, the fear was too great. They believed staying meant risking their lives. Leaving meant losing their income, but keeping their safety. And for South Africans who rely on these factories, the collapse has created a new kind of crisis: unemployment, hunger, and uncertainty. In a country where fear has become more powerful than opportunity, progress stalls and hope fades. When factories collapse, communities collapse, and South Africa is now facing the consequences. Next, we turn to March and March, the movement behind the June 30 protests. 300 marches, 200,000 participants, 0 violence, 0 intimidation, 0 property destruction. They insist South Africans are not xenophobic. They are simply demanding enforcement of immigration laws. March and March says they are peaceful, but communities tell a different story. Let's watch the next clip.
So today marks 34 days after the entire South Africa, particularly those who love their country, took to the streets. We had over 300 marches across the country, which resulted in over 200,000 South Africans taking to the streets on the same day. And we must categorically state that South Africans are not violent. South Africans are not xenophobic, and their cry is that of the soul of South Africa, and it must be protected. These protests were free from any violence. This was not occasioned by the wasteful expenditure and the dramatization of the people's pain by their very own government. We must state over and over again that there was no destruction of property, not because South Africans are scared of government or they're incapable, but there was no violation of the rights of foreign nationals, and it was not because of the police, but it was because South Africans love their country.
At their press briefing, their leadership insisted that the June 30 protests were free of violence. They blamed isolated individuals and media exaggeration for the chaos seen across the country. Not everyone agrees with March and March. Civil society groups in Cape Town are marching against xenophobia. Migrants are being unfairly targeted. Home affairs backlogs are the real problem, and African unity is the only way forward. Let's take a look at the next clip.
First and foremost, we've come out today to reclaim the streets from those in our society who put forward the most backwards and reactionary, counter-revolutionary politics that blames the poor, scapegoats migrants, the unemployed and the homeless for the crisis confronting the working class and our people across this country. And our position is that those who hold and wield economic power and political power over society are the ones who are to blame for the crisis that we are confronted by in the form of unemployment, in the form of landlessness, of homelessness, in the form of hunger, precarity, and all manner of social ill and injustice that flows from that. And so we reject, first and foremost, the idea that the poor amongst us, that migrants amongst us are to blame for that crisis.
What is happening now is the people not understanding the cause of the problem, because the cause of the problem is not our African brothers. The cause of the problem is our government that is corrupt and not doing anything about the corruption.
South Africans are not xenophobic. They are simply demanding enforcement of immigration laws. They insist South Africans are not xenophobic. They are simply demanding enforcement of immigration laws. Before we continue, I want to take a moment to thank you for being here. If you're finding value in this documentary, please consider subscribing and turning on notifications. Two powerful voices enter the debate. Let's take a look.
They are complaining that there's unemployment in South Africa and the jobs are being taken by foreigners. So let me ask you, do you think there'll be no unemployment now that they've chased the Africans?
No.
In fact, it will increase. I think they are complaining about a problem that exists, but the solution is wrong. And also, they are barking at a wrong tree. You see, there is unemployment in South Africa because our economy is not doing well. It's the economy that deals with unemployment. Our economy is not doing well. We are still exporting things raw. We don't have sufficient resources. we're not creating enough entrepreneurs and so on. So we need to fix our economy. That's a problem that is real. But chasing Africans, in fact, of late, we were even chasing those who have documents. I saw somewhere, somebody said, no, I have documents. They say they gave them to the police and say, you'll sort that out at the police station. And then someone was saying, no, abahambe anyway. So, first of all, illegal immigrants must be sorted by government. It's illegal for civilians to be the ones that go around asking for documentation. The government must take its responsibility. It's the police, it's Home Affairs, Immigration that have that responsibility. But of course, there's also a problem in our borders because some of them say they pay 500 rands and they are allowed in. So we need to sort those problems as well. But citizens should not be the ones that deal with that matter. And at the end of the day, my view is that we are going to be the losers. Because there is no country that can exist in isolation and develop in isolation. Doesn't matter how big it is, how rich it may be, but you still need to trade with people, you still need to.
Tazan Dlamini Zuma warns that South Africa is barking at the wrong tree. The problem is the economy, not migrants. Borders are porous. Corruption is rampant. Tourism depends on Africa. South Africa cannot grow alone. Let's take a look at the next clip.
And I just wanted to make it clear. I think the government of South Africa can stand there in public platforms and shout that we're funded by Israel or whatever. But at the end of the day, they've got all the resources to prove that we are. So if our government wanted to prove that we are funded by Israel, they would have proved it by now. And if our government wanted to arrest us for looting or violence, they would have done it by now. But the reason they're not doing that is because they know that's not who we are. That's not what we've preached. That's not what we've encouraged. So the people who have been looting and doing whatever they've been doing in those areas, we ourselves have encouraged the government to arrest them because that's not who we are. The minute our conversation gets diluted around issues of crime and violence and violations of people's rights, etc., then the movement loses who it is. You were saying that foreigners were booted out of their places. And this is where I need the media to be honest. And I'm saying you guys because obviously you hold a far greater responsibility of controlling the narrative.
Jansita Ngobese Zuma. She fires back saying March and March is not violent and communities are fed up. These two women represent the two sides of South Africa's crisis, economic logic versus community anger. Then comes the moment that changes everything. Let's watch the next clip.
South Africa, how did you guys get to this level? How did you guys get to this point? Hey! Shame. This is just low. Come on. Hey. Hey. South Africans are starting to turn against each other, and it's not even funny. So these videos have been trending since yesterday, where it shows a group of hungry, desperate, shameless South Africans aggressively looting a spaza shop that belonged to a foreigner. Some sources say that there was a march going on when they spotted the shop open and decided to loot it, despite the owner of the shop trying to prevent them from entry. But clearly you cannot fight this crowd. But this is what we are hearing, that this shop has actually been sold to a South African. the South African man bought the shop and its products from the foreigner that owned it. However, these people did not know, did not care. They remember this shop was owned by a foreigner and they decided to attack it, regardless of the fact that it now belongs to one of their own. At some point in the video, you could even see school children who were returning from classes spotting the looting going on, and then they joined in looting the shop. It's so embarrassing. Even their kids are now looting. Even children in South Africa are now looting. They are watching what their elders, their older people are doing. These are the men that are complaining about foreigners taking their jabs. See what they are doing in front of their children. This is shameful and this is low. This is embarrassing. This is, at some point, I think it will get to a point when they'll start looting from each other's houses. They'll start looking for any excuse to loot from somebody. How did you people get here? How did you people get here? Aye! Hi! Shame, 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 shame! Oh my God!
South Africans are looting from each other, not migrants, not foreigners, each other. This is not xenophobia, this is desperation. When people are hungry, they turn on whoever is closest. This is the real crisis. Finally, the political establishment responds. Let's watch the next clip.
We are not celebrating the fact that there is difference. It's a point of emphasis that because they were accused, among others, that they are fermenting this thing because of political interest to undermine the democratic state by vested interest, both domestic and international, and they are being given money. Something that we cannot prove. But over and above that, they began to espouse politics. It is a well-documented fact that we were called by name as the ANC repeatedly by some leaders of this March and March, that the ANC must be isolated. Certain political parties must be recognized. And these political parties then invited the leaders of this March and March, embraced them. Whereas on the other hand, when ANC public representatives acting in the positions of authority, they were booed down. Now you want to tell me that there is no political element there? And then I said, you will see, because this is not a pure issue of immigration and undocumented people and all of that. It has got a hand behind it that is political, and this thing, they are going to end up fighting among themselves. We need to unite on something that has got a danger to undermine and corrode the standing of South Africa among nations of the world. And that will also have will have a backlash and backfire. There are people who are quick out there who want slightest provocation for our country to be isolated.
Kile Balula challenges March and March. Who elected you? Who funds you? Who gave you authority? Who verifies your claims? He warns, South Africa cannot allow vigilante enforcement. Only the state can enforce immigration laws. This is the moment the government finally steps in, and it will change everything. After perspectives and realities, one truth remains. South Africa's crisis is not just about migrants. It is not just about crime. It is not just about politics. It is about a failing economy, a broken system, a desperate population. The real enemy is poverty, corruption, and collapse. South Africa is on the edge, but the future is not written yet. The question is, who will write it? Stay safe, stay informed, and stay connected. I will catch you on the next one. From myself, Grace Ndlovukazi, and the entire Africa Politics podcast team, thank you for watching, thank you for caring, and thank you for being part of this conversation.